listening to Keith Sports News. Hey everyone, welcome to a special Tuesday edition of KSN. That's right. So, yes, I decided to do a special Tuesday edition of KSN instead of the regular Monday because today is Canada Day. Yes, happy Canada Day. I don't know if I have any Canadian subscribers or viewers that follow this channel, but if you like Canadian sports like me, then that's great. Okay, before I start, yes, I am in a different room. This is a different bedroom, okay? And if you follow the main channel, Eric Super Magnificent, also in this room. I don't know what it is that both channels are copying each other, or in terms of them recording in the same room. I guess we're sharing the same room. Oh yeah, I got a haircut, by the way. Yeah. The shirt that I'm wearing. Oh yeah. This is from old pro wrestling, from the Monday Night Wars era, the Attitude Era from the late 1990s. I am into that era. I watch that on a weekly basis of the World Wrestling Federation and World Championship Wrestling. The ratings, neck and neck, back in 1998. Yes, that is the year that I'm on right now for that era. Okay. I watched, the last thing I watched was a WWF pay-per-view called King of the Ring 1998, and boy oh boy, it was something. If you're an old pro wrestling fan, then you probably do remember that one particular match. Yes, Hell in a Cell between Mankind and The Undertaker. A match that people still talk about to this day. Yes. Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to do a special Tuesday edition was mainly because it's Canada Day, and I really didn't have the time to record Monday's episode. So I decided to push it back to Tuesday, and I looked at the calendar. Oh yeah, Tuesday is Canada Day this year, so I might as well just wait until Tuesday to do this episode. So yeah, sometimes instead of Monday, it'll be Tuesday. Sometimes instead of Friday, it'll be Thursday or even Saturday. So, yeah. Anyways, happy Canada Day. If you're a fan of Canadian sports like me, mainly the CFL, the Canadian Football League, we're going to start with that, okay? Because the Canadian Football League is my number one favorite sports league. And it's summer season, and that is what I'm mainly following, alright? And we're going to start off with the recap of Week 4, the rest of Week 4. Alright, so the Friday night game was my favorite team, the Montreal Alouettes, against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I knew this would be a tough game. I thought it would be a great game. I did pick Montreal to win, just because they're my favorite team, and I thought they are the better team. The game was in Hamilton. This is weird. This was Montreal's third straight road game. Yeah, so it's interesting how they make this schedule. So the game was in Hamilton. And I didn't really get a chance to watch much of this game, but I had the game on in the background. I had to do some other things, but I was listening mainly the second half. All right, so the first half, not much happened. After the first quarter, it was just 1-1. Yes, you can get a single point in the CFL, and in order for that to happen, you can't kneel in the end zone. If you take a knee in the end zone, they have giant end zones, and if you take a knee, you give the other team a single point. So yeah, that's how that works. And yeah, not much offense in the first half. Hamilton did score a touchdown in the second half to make it 8-4. 8-4 at halftime. That's a weird score, right? But then the second half, there was some more offense. Okay. And I wasn't, I thought this would be a close game. All right. I thought this would be a close game. And Hamilton, they were wearing their alternate uniform. With the helmet that has the H on it. Yeah, I kind of like those uniforms. Those are pretty cool. So, and Montreal did not look like themselves from the first 3 weeks. Hamilton did play much better. All right. So, yeah, quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell of the Tiger Cats did really well, and the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber Kenny Lawler had a great game as well. So after the third quarter, Hamilton was leading 18-7. And then the fourth quarter, man, Hamilton got a couple of touchdowns, and that was basically how they won the game by a score of 35-17. So Hamilton got their first win, and Montreal got their first loss. The Saturday night game was between the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I did not watch this game, but I had the game on. We actually had a it's funny. Eric Super Magnificent said this, and I'm going to say the same thing. We had a party. We had a party on Saturday night. So, let me tell you what I had on the TVs on Saturday night. The CFL game was one of them, and the other one was the Fox Saturday Night Baseball game between the Chicago Cubs and the Houston Astros. All right. So I wasn't really watching the game because it was at, the party was going on, and I knew Saskatchewan was going to win. I did predict that the Rough Riders would win that matchup, and they did by a score of 37-18. Man, Saskatchewan might be the best team in the West Division, or the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Oh man, that's going to be a big matchup whenever those two teams will face each other. Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Let's look that up right now. I'm going to just type in Winnipeg Blue Bombers, their schedule. So, when will the Blue Bombers take on the Rough Riders? They won't be taking on the Rough Riders anytime soon until August 31st. And then they'll play each other again the following week on September the 2nd. Wow. We have to wait like 2 months. Nearly 2 months until these two teams will face each other. That's pretty Interesting. Okay, then. Oh, I think they call that the Banjo Bowl? I think one of those teams is in the bowl game called the Banjo Bowl. Maybe it's both of those teams. I've heard of that before. And I think, yeah, I think they would have that on Labor Day weekend. So, Labor Day weekend is usually the first weekend of September. All right. Which is also when college football begins. All right. Oh, by the way, yeah, look at you see the clock behind me? That is the time right now, 3:21 a.m. as I speak. I would usually record these before I go to sleep. So that way, when I wake up, I don't have to worry about recording the episodes and then upload it and then go to work. Nah, that's not what I do. Okay, so back to the CFL Week 4 recap. Sunday night. Yes, there was a Sunday night game between the Toronto Argonauts and the Ottawa Redblacks. So, I watched that game. All right, I really did. And I believe I predicted that the Argonauts would win. They would finally win their first game. Like, what if, can you imagine, like, the Grey Cup champions, the defending Grey Cup champions, being 0-4? I don't know if that's ever happened before. Or, when's the last time an 0-4 team won the Grey Cup or even the Super Bowl? I don't remember because that is just so hard. So, this game was an interesting matchup. Rod Smith and Paul LaPolice were on the call. Paul LaPolice used to be the Red Blacks head coach. You just never know how the Red Blacks are going to play. Sometimes they'll look pretty good, and sometimes they won't look that great. And in this matchup, they did not look that great. First quarter, not much happened. Argonauts scored 4 points, 4-0. And then the second quarter, it was pretty much all Toronto. Now, the crazy play that happened was the Argonauts scored a touchdown. I'm reading it what it says. Dustin Crum, complete pass to Khalil Pimpleton for 8 yards. Then Pimpleton fumbled. And Derek Sluika, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, scored a touchdown, a return fumble, 105 yards for a touchdown. I saw that live. I could not believe that. I could not believe that. Not only that, Derek made more crazy history. He scored another touchdown. A returned punt, I believe, right? He was in the end zone, the giant end zone. He got out of the end zone, going the other direction, and he scored a touchdown. 120 yards. That is insane. I'm like, when I saw that live, I'm like, don't tell me that this is the same player. And it was. It was the same player. What on earth? I mean, wow. CFL will have some crazy, wild, exciting plays like that. So after that, man, I had a feeling that, yeah, Toronto's going to win this game. Ottawa tried to come back, but it was too little too late, so the Argonauts won their first game by a score of 29-16. Both teams are now 1-3. Hamilton is 1-3. So, as a Montreal Alouettes fan, yeah, disappointing that they lost their first game, but they're still ahead in the East Division. Yeah, the standings, they're still up. But hey, this is only week 4. There's still a long ways to go. In the West, we got two undefeated teams, Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Edmonton is the only team that has yet to win a game, the Elks. So, you know what? While I was watching that Sunday night game, I asked to myself, it's going to be interesting when Ottawa Red Blacks meet the Edmonton Elks. I wonder when they're going to play each other. So I looked that up, and they're playing each other next Sunday night, or this upcoming Sunday night. The Ottawa Red Blacks will be facing the Edmonton Elks on Sunday night. All right, so I'm going to make my next prediction for the Week 5 Thursday night game. This is a big one between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders at Calgary. Will the Blue Bombers remain undefeated? Now, when Calgary lost their first game, the weather was not great. Somehow, on the first weekend of summer, it was only 44 degrees and it was raining. Let's see the weather for Thursday night in Calgary. I assume it'll be much warmer there. By the way, it's warm pretty much everywhere in Canada. It's even... The weather in Alaska is perfect. So Thursday night, yeah, okay, it's not going to be raining. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I think Winnipeg is the better team, though. So I think I'm going to go with the Blue Bombers. I don't think it's going to be a one-sided game. I think the Blue Bombers will hang on to win. They might win by a touchdown, maybe like 27-20 or something like that. So I'll predict that the Blue Bombers will remain undefeated. And then I'll make the rest of my predictions of Week 5 in the next episode of KSN. So that's kind of what I do. I'll predict the first game, the Thursday night game, on the Monday episode, and then the Friday episode I'll predict the rest of the games of the CFL of that week. So we're now heading into Week 5. So yeah. All right. So that's that. Speaking of Canada Day, we have Canadian tennis players in Wimbledon. That's right, Wimbledon tennis. The big thing happening right now in sports is Wimbledon, the biggest tennis tournament of the year, has begun yesterday on Monday. All right, so we had some... because, my favorite sports channel is TSN, the Canadian Sports Channel. It's basically the Canadian version of ESPN, and there were some Canadians in action on Monday. All right. So, luckily I have YouTube TV, so I can record this stuff, and I don't have to watch it live, because it's hard to watch it live when you have to wake up early and go to work. So luckily I can watch it on DVR as long as I don't look on ESPN's notification, which I kind of did, but oh well, it's only day 1. I wasn't really expecting any big upsets. However, we almost had an upset. The French Open champion and the 2-time defending Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz survived a 5-set match against, what's his name? Fabio Fognini from Italy. This match went 5 sets. Before I get into that, this was the hottest first day ever in Wimbledon history, which is very unusual. It was like in 90 degrees, It's like, that's crazy. That's unusual. And, that's very unfortunate for the players and the fans, you know? Like, who wants to be out there at 90 degrees? Nobody. Unless if you're going swimming. But, you know, this is tennis. This match was played on center court. Okay? Center court is the main court of Wimbledon. Alright? And back in the old days, there was no roof. There was no retractable roof of center court. But they do have a retractable roof. And for some stupid reason, they didn't close the roof. In my opinion, they should have closed the roof because it was so damn hot. It was so damn hot. 90 degrees, and you have these players playing in the heat. You have spectators sitting out in the heat, and the roof isn't closed? That's stupid. I'm sorry. Come on. Why is the roof... Why they had the roof open? Now, for the outer courts, the small courts that don't have a roof, yeah, it's very unfortunate for those players and those spectators to be out there. But come on, center court, you have a roof, you might as well close it, turn on the air condition. I mean, that is ridiculous. And this match went 5 sets. And in the 5th set, I heard on ABC News a fan collapsed because of the heat. I assume the fan got dehydrated because of the heat. And this is why they should have closed the roof. If the roof was closed, I'm pretty sure that fan would have not collapsed. You know, that fan would be hydrated. You know what I'm saying? That's important to stay hydrated in these summer heat conditions. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that they didn't close the roof, for Pete's sake. I heard that Chris Fowler, the announcer, was on the call with John McEnroe. They're my favorites. And he said, he was asked that you think they would close the roof for the fans' safety, you know? But for some reason they didn't do that. But they did. They would do that in the Australian Open and the US Open. Okay? If it's hot, if it's really that hot, they would close the roof. So I don't know why Wimbledon didn't do that. I guess Wimbledon is very, very old school, or I have no clue. I don't know. See, these 4 Grand Slam tournaments, they have different rules. They have different rules. Some of them don't have linesmen on the court. They're all electronically calls. Okay? French Open, they have linesmen. I believe, isn't the French Open the only Grand Slam tournament where they have linesmen? Let me see. Does Wimbledon have linesmen? Let me check. I'm on YouTube TV. It's playing a commercial, so let me just rewind. See if they have linesmen. I don't think they do. But years ago, yep, they used to have them. No, they don't have them. No linesmen. They don't have linesmen on the courts. Does that bother me? No, absolutely not. That does not bother me that there are no more linesmen. So the French Open was the only Grand Slam tournament to not have the electronic calls. Alright? But yeah, the roof should be closed. It's like the only time they'll close the roof if it's when it's raining. I mean, I you know, that's very unfortunate. Like, in Major League Baseball, you have stadiums that have a retractable roof. Okay? The Houston Astros, pretty much all of their home games, if not all of their home games, are played under the roof. The roof would be closed because it's always hot. It seems like it's always hot in Houston during the season. even in the evening. They don't open up the roof in 90 degrees. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the fans, they don't want to be out there. Players don't want to play out there in these hot conditions. That's why they close the roof and turn on the air condition. You know? I've been to that stadium like a couple of times, but it's been years since I last went to a game there. But all the games that I went to, the roof was closed because it was during the summer season. And I did mention in the last episode that I would like to go to that stadium next year in March because they're going to be hosting the World Baseball Classic. And I really hope, if I really do go, I really hope that the roof will be open because I don't think it's going to be that hot in March. Early March is technically still winter season, okay? So I'm really hoping, if I really go, I'm really hoping that the roof will be open. If it's not raining and if it's not really warm, if it's only 65 degrees, you open up the roof, okay? If it's 85 or higher, you might as well close it. If it's 45 or below, you might as well close it, okay? So, but I got a feeling they're not going to do that. They're probably going to have the roof closed no matter what. Oh well, it is what it is. But it would still be great if I really do go to Houston for the World Baseball Classic. But that was sad, seeing a fan collapsed, you know, because of the heat. I mean, this must be like a record, 90 degrees, and they said it was the hottest start in Wimbledon history. So, but Carlos Alcaraz did manage to survive in 5 sets. So yeah, that was surprising. Another surprise that I saw, Daniil Medvedev lost. Stefanos Tsitsipas, he had to retire. You know, when I say retire, I don't mean him ending his career. They would say the word retire when you can't continue your match. When you quit your match, they would say, "Oh, that player retired." But that doesn't mean that his career is over, you know. He just can't continue playing. I know it's kind of weird saying retire, but that's what that is. So if you look at the scores and if you see a little R on the right side, that's what that means. That player quit his match. Player can't continue. All right. So yeah. So Medvedev is out. Tsitsipas is out. And man, they were showing like players will be having like an ice bag on the back of their neck because it was just so damn hot. I mean, like, golly. Yeah. I'm looking at the scores right now. Some of these matches are suspended. It must be because of the heat. It's got to be because of the heat, right? Got a few matches that are suspended. Taylor Fritz, his match got suspended after the 4th set, so his match is going to a 5th set, and that match is suspended as I speak. So by the time you see this, I'm pretty sure that match has concluded. Oh man, we can't have Taylor Fritz lose again in the first round of a Grand Slam. He lost in the first round at the French Open. So I wish him well. He's usually a really cool guy. He's the 5th seed. He's the 5th seed on the men's side. All right. So, yeah. Day 2 will be just as hot, but then day 3 it won't be as hot. So the first 2 days are going to be really hot days, but then the rest of the week it won't be as hot. So yeah, you just never know about the weather, you know. Yeah, like what was it, like last week? It was super hot in the Northeast. Yeah, like how does that happen? And then like the week before, it was cool outside in the Northeast. Like what the heck? The temperature just spikes up like crazy in 1 week. Okay then. Although sometimes that happens, the opposite happens where I live in the winter. Sometimes the temperature just plummets like crazy and within 2 days or something like that. You're just like, ugh, okay. So, um, so yeah, Wimbledon has just begun. I'm gonna try to watch as much as possible because I didn't really watch much of the French Open, but I'll do my best to watch some of Wimbledon. Plus, I like Wimbledon more than the French Open, anyways. All right, and luckily I have YouTube TV, so I can record this stuff. All right, so Canada Day, we have some Canadian players. Felix Auger-Aliassime won a fifth set match. Man, he's also a great player, although his seeding has kind of dropped, so we'll see how he does in Wimbledon. But yeah, like I said, TSN is my favorite sports channel. They'll mainly talk about Canadian sports and players, so they have a guy covering tennis, and he would talk about the Canadian players in action. So Felix Auger-Aliassime is one of them. All right, so he won his match, so that's cool. And Francis Tiafoe looked pretty good. He won in straight sets. All right, so let's go to today's matches for the men's singles. For a bunch of more first round matches. Let's see here, any interesting. We got Canadian player Denis Shapovalov in action. He's left-handed, and I'm left-handed, so it's always interesting to see a left-handed athlete player. Even in baseball, there's left-handed hitters. I swing with my left hand, so that's always interesting to watch left-handed players. And of course, football, left-handed quarterbacks. Yeah, you don't see that many left-handed quarterbacks where they throw the football with their left hand. I throw a football with my left hand. But you know what's weird? I use my mouse. I use the mouse with my right hand. Yeah. But yeah, usually we don't get that many upsets in the first round on the men's side. Sometimes we do on the women's side. So I'm going to check the women's side in a little bit here. I'm just scrolling down here. Novak Djokovic, the man who's won what? How many Wimbledons? 7, I believe. And he's been in like the last 5, 6 Wimbledon finals since 2018. I mean, that's impressive for his age. Yeah, he was in the last 2. He lost the last 2 Wimbledons to Carlos Alcaraz, but excuse me for a moment. So, we'll see how he does. I listened to his press conference. They were asking him if this could be his last dance at Wimbledon, and he said he hopes to be playing for the next couple of years. Do I want him to see him play again for the next couple of years? Yes, absolutely, because in my opinion, he's the greatest of all time. He's in terms of the numbers, the stats, he's the GOAT in my books. But the people that say that he's not the GOAT, they're not Novak fans. They're either a Roger Federer fan or a Rafael Nadal fan, because those were Novak's rivals. Novak's rivalries. Nadal and Federer. If you combine them, they would call it Fadal, There was a bunch of Fadal fans, before Novak came in. But yes, I would like to see Novak win one more Grand Slam, and this is probably his best chance because he's been in the last 5, 6 Wimbledon finals since 2018, you know? So it'll be great if he can reach the final again. And he's 38. He looks really great. He plays great for his age, but we got two top players that are taking over the tennis world, and those players' names were in the French Open final: Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. We'll see how Jannik Sinner does because he's never been in a Wimbledon final. Although I think he was in the Wimbledon semifinals, but I believe he lost to Carlos Alcaraz. It was either last year's or the year before, or it might have been both years. I don't remember, but we'll see how those players do. We might get a Wimbledon final rematch from last year's and the year before, or we might get a rematch from the French Open. We'll see. We shall see. But I hope Novak does well. Alright. So that's the men's side. The women's singles, I saw a couple of matches here. Oh, wow, we got an upset. Paula Badosa lost to the Great Britain player Katie Boulter, the crowd favorite. You know Katie Boulter, she's married to Alex de Minaur, the Australian player. So that's great for them. Naomi Osaka, she won her first match. Oh, wow. Amanda Anisimova. 6-love, 6-love. What I think they would call that like a double egg or something. I don't know. There's like a word when you win your matches by shutting out your sets. 6-0, 6-0. They would call that something. I forgot what that word is, but that's always rare, where your opponent doesn't win a single game in the match. So, let's see. Emma Raducanu, another fan favorite. She won her first match. Okay. Canadian player Leylah Fernandez. I always liked her. And she's Filipino, I believe, yeah. And she was born in Canada. Canadian Filipino player. She won her first match. Alright. Madison Keys, the Australian Open champion, won in 3 tight sets. She lost the first set 6-7, tiebreaker 4-7, and then she won the next 2 sets 7-5, 7-5. Wow. Madison Keys is a great player when it comes to playing in a long match like that, in the heat. Yeah, in the heat too. Aryna Sabalenka, she won her match. She is one of the favorites to win. She is the number 1 seeded player. Wow, Yelena Ostapenko lost, because that was one of the first matches that ESPN was showing, but I didn't thought she would lose. She lost to a Great Britain player, Sone Cartel. Yeah, I was actually watching some of that match, and Sone Cartel was wearing like a big shirt. See, the players that get paid to wear their outfits, you know, it makes sense. All right. So that was on Monday. So today, let's see here. Any interesting matchups here? Jessica Pegula's in action. She's one of my favorites. I hope she does well. The Filipino player, Alexandria Ayala. She's taking on the defending Wimbledon champion, Barbora Krejcikova. That's gonna be a tough matchup. So, I'll be rooting for the Filipino player. Remember, a couple months ago, she went to the Miami Open semifinals which is amazing for her. And yeah, she's one of the newer players. She's very young, so I wish her well. All right, got a bunch of American players in action. We'll see how Iga Swiatek does. For some reason, her seeding dropped to number 8. Okay. Emma Navarro is taking on Petra Kvitova, a former Wimbledon champion. Kvitova, she's one of the older players, but she's also left-handed. So I might watch that match if ESPN is going to show that match. I know a lot of these matches are on ESPN Plus, so I think I do have my ESPN Plus subscription. I'll have to check that out if I have a chance. So, all right. So that is Wimbledon for the first 2 days of the tournament. So that is the big thing that I'll be following throughout the week. You know, the weekend, there's usually more things going on in sports. Of course, CFL, I will try to watch their games. All right. How about we check the MLB standings real quick here? Because we are approaching the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game in a couple of weeks. Let's check the standings here. Once it loads, okay, finally it loaded. So in the American League, the New York Yankees are in first place, but the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays are right behind them, so it's a pretty close battle for first and second place. In the Central, how about the Detroit Tigers? They are probably the best team in baseball. They have great pitching. And the Cleveland Guardians, they're in second place, but they are 11 and a half games behind the Tigers. Wow. Amazing. Chicago White Sox, 28 wins and 56 losses. In the American League West, the Houston Astros are in first place. The Seattle Mariners are in second, 6 games behind. Anaheim Angels, Texas Rangers, and the Athletics. Athletics are not that great. 35 wins in Sacramento. To the National League East, the Philadelphia Phillies. Wow, the Phillies are in first place now. So like a week ago, it was the Mets. I guess lately the Mets have been losing. Phillies are now in first place with 50 wins. The Mets are 2 games behind the Phillies. The Atlanta Braves are 11 games behind. They're still in that hole. 38 wins and 45 losses, so that's kind of surprising. The National League Central, the Chicago Cubs are in first place. The Milwaukee Brewers are 2 games behind. St. Louis Cardinals are 3 games behind. Cincinnati Reds are 5.5 games behind. The Pittsburgh Pirates, with a great pitcher, Paul Skeens, the team is not that great. And then the National League West, the LA Dodgers are still in first place, and wow, they're ahead by 7.5 games. San Diego Padres are in second place with 7.5 games behind. And then the San Francisco Giants are right behind the Padres with 8 games behind. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are 42 wins and 42 losses. Colorado Rockies, the worst team, 19 wins and 65 losses, 33.5 games behind. Wow. I wonder if they're still going to... You think they're going to break the record from the Chicago White Sox losing record from last year? It might still happen. All right. I got some cool news. If you are a pro wrestling fan, And if you have SiriusXM, they're going to launch a channel today called Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7. Yeah, pro wrestling talk 24/7. That is amazing. And I'm not a huge fan of today's pro wrestling, but I would like to hear what's going on, mainly in the WWE. I don't really care much about AEW or TNA. Mainly WWE. John Cena is still the champion. Okay, so I still would like to know what's going on, even though I'm not a big fan of today's product. It's the same with the MLB, Major League Baseball. I'm not a huge fan of today's MLB, but I still would like to know what's going on by listening to these podcasts. So yeah, so congratulations. SiriusXM is launching a channel, Pro Wrestling Talk, 24/7. Of course, I'll still listen to Busted Open with Dave LaGreca, Sam Roberts with Not Sam Wrestling, Jonathan Coachman. I like him. He has a great voice. A former announcer in the WWE. He's gonna have his own show, so I'm looking forward to check his show out on SiriusXM. And Peter Rosenberg, Cheap Heat live. Yeah, my goodness, a lot of pro wrestling talk that I'll listen to. Who knows? Maybe I'll somehow get back into the product. Maybe a little bit. But yeah. So, yes, I'll have to, eventually I'll have to read the list on all my favorite sports talk shows that I would listen to on a weekly basis. I know, it's crazy. And the last thing I want to talk about is we have some sad news. Some very sad news if you're a horse racing fan. I'm sure you heard the news of the passing of longtime racehorse trainer D. Wayne Lukas. And here's how I found out. There's this show that I was listening to called Down the Stretch with what's his name? Bill Finley and Dave Johnson, the great Dave Johnson. And at the beginning of of their program, they were saying that D. Wayne Lukas was not doing well. And I listened to that episode on Sunday night. So I looked up D. Wayne Lukas. And he passed away the same night, the same date as that podcast was taped and recorded, at the age of 89. And man, we just saw him at the Belmont Stakes earlier this month. Man, at the age of 89. Man. And he won the Preakness Stakes last year. You know, he made history, becoming the oldest trainer, man, to win one of the Triple Crown races, man. Rest in peace, rest in peace to Darrell Wayne Lukas, longtime horse racing trainer. I mean, it's crazy. We just saw the guy riding on a horse, you know, about a month ago for the Triple Crown, and now, you know, a couple nights ago we lost him in the horse racing world. So he will go down as one of the greatest trainers of horses of all time. I was reading about him. You know, usually when a legend passes away, I would usually read some about that person on Wikipedia, and it says that Lucas's 4,953rd and final thoroughbred winner was tour player who won at Churchill Downs on June 12, 2025. Wow. Wow. This man, he was a trainer like forever. Long time. So it says here on June 22nd, 2025, Lucas's family in Churchill Downs announced that Lukas had health issues and would not return to training. So basically, that was it. He retired. I mean, at the age of 89, most people are retired by the time, a lot of people don't make it to that age, first of all, Then it says Lukas was hospitalized for a severe MRSA infection and declined an aggressive treatment pain, instead choosing to return home for hospice care. His thoroughbreds were transferred to his assistant for over 20 years, Sebastian Nickel. Lukas died at his home in Louisville, Kentucky on June 28, 2025 at the age of 89. So, some very sad news there for the horse racing world. And I would not have known about this if I didn't listen to Down the Stretch on SiriusXM. But I listened to Pardon the Interruption, PTI, okay? Longtime ESPN television show, but you can listen to that as a podcast. And lately, a lot of times I do listen to that show as a podcast on audio. And at the end of the show, Tony Kornheiser, the host, revealed that the passing of D. Wayne Lukas. So I would have found out. So, man, it's crazy. We just saw him earlier this month, or last month, at the Belmont Stakes. So Down the Stretch is a podcast on SiriusXM, NBC Sports Radio, with Bill Finley, and Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson was a longtime racetrack announcer in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. He was an announcer for a long time on ABC, okay? And Dave, he's 84 years old, and he sounds amazing. He doesn't sound like he's that old for his age. So he was saying that him and D. Wayne Lukas, they met each other in the early 70s. Yeah, they go way back. So that show is... They would air that show every Saturday morning from like 9 to noon Central Time. And it's a once a week. So this upcoming Saturday, I'm sure they'll do like a little tribute to D. Wayne Lukas. So rest in peace to a legendary horse trainer, D. Wayne Lukas. So that is all my news for this episode of KSN. Happy Canada Day. I'm going to wish all the Canadian players at the Wimbledon Championships well, because I know TSN will be talking about that. And I should be back on Friday for the 4th of July. Yeah, 4th of July is only 3 days after Canada Day. So, we shall see how that goes here. So, yeah, we're now in July. Summer season has just begun. So, it's good to be back here with this new haircut, this new room that I'm in. I don't know if this is going to be like a permanent location for KSN. Sometimes I'll move around in different rooms, but for now I like it in here, so let's try it out. Alright, that's it. See you in a couple of days. Thank you for listening to Keith's Sports News.